currently fellows at the Center for Renewing America, who are basically a shadow government in waiting, in exile. For good measure, they're also going to try to impound money and use the presidential pen to eliminate funding for agencies, policies, and other social programs that they don't like. Again, something that the legislation, Congress, was strong enough to push back against an out-of-control Richard Nixon before he was impeached. Let's focus on the Center for Renewing America, and let's look at who's sitting over there. It's eye-popping. One, we have, it's headed by Trump's former director of the Office of Management and Budget, and we're going to put him up there next. That guy, who's that former head, he founded this organization, but with the approval of Donald Trump, Russell Voigt. And Russell Voigt is leading the charge, and he's joined by, let's start in no particular order of heinousness, John McEntee. Let's put him up on the board. John McEntee has been called by the Atlantic magazine as being the enabler for Donald Trump's worst instincts, the Gestapo, the Stasi for Donald Trump, using loyalty tests to remove people, especially in that critical November, December, January 2021 time period, or November, December 2020, January 2021 time period, right? To remove people that were disloyal to Donald Trump, but as he tried to cling to power, to break away those barricades. So you have John McEntee, who was the head of presidential personnel, right? That's code word for he will fire you if Donald Trump didn't like you, right? That's how Chris Krebs, the director of cybersecurity, who declared that the elections were fair and that the integrity of the election process should not be challenged, fired. Jack Smith is focusing on John McEntee. In fact, he's had to testify before the grand jury without any immunity protection, and he's not a lawyer, so without privilege, he's already testified to the grand jury. In fact, most of the people I'm going to tell you are on the staff of this exile government in waiting, are all either in the crosshairs of Jan 6 as targets, as subjects, or have already testified for Jack Smith to a grand jury. Started with John McEntee. Let's go to Jeff Clark. Jeff Clark was almost the Attorney General of the United States, and he was going to write, because he wrote this on DOJ letterhead, letters to the battleground states telling them that the Department of Justice, this is all false, believed there was fraud in the election and wanted to put pressure on the states. This is when Donald Trump, as part of his toolbox to stay in power, was going to use the Department of Justice and his hand-picked Attorney General, Jeff Clark, a former environmental lawyer who had no business getting anywhere near the top of the Department of Justice. Jeff Clark was going to write those letters to try to throw sand in the gears of democracy, one state at a time. Jack Smith is interested in Jeff Clark as a target, as a criminal defendant. He's on the staff of Center for Renewing America. Kash Patel. Kash Patel is not only a subject and a target of Jack Smith's criminal investigation, he was formerly a deputy assistant to the president, but he's also already testified, having asserted the Fifth Amendment, and was given a limited immunity so he wouldn't be prosecuted, to testify against Donald Trump. He's on the staff and a fellow of the Center for Renewing America. Ken Cuccinelli, who Jack Smith is very interested in and had him testify because he was the acting director of Homeland Securities when Donald Trump on December the 18th met with Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, and Mike Flynn to talk about suspending the Constitution, imposing martial law, and seizing election equipment. And Ken Cuccinelli testified that he told the president he can't do that. He can't seize the election equipment in December and try to stay in power under some trumped-up idea of the big lie, with Sidney Powell appointed as a special counsel to do that investigation. So we've got Ken Cuccinelli sitting there, Jeff Clark, Kash Patel. And if you look at that website, that rogues gallery of people who are in the crosshairs of Jack Smith's prosecution, but if they ever somehow escape this, run the table of all these indictments and these prosecutions and convictions and end up back in power, they are going to dismantle all the independent agencies of the federal government, the FTC, the CFTC, the IRS, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Department of Justice, the FBI, the State Department, and all the intelligence agencies. They're going to put lackeys in each of those positions who kowtow completely and bootlick completely to Emperor Donald Trump, right? This is what fascists do. This is what Donald Trump and that team of people I just told you about, who have the gall, the unmitigated gall, to use America and renewal in the title of their think tank when they're really just against the American people. They'll also, if they ever get back in, or to paraphrase John McEntee, again, he's been referred to as the head of the Gestapo or Stasi for Donald Trump. John McEntee has also said that this will be a fundamental reordering of the civil service process and the executive branch and agencies, unlike anything we've ever seen since FDR. Because in their worldview, all of the independent agencies are there for a reason. They're there to implement liberal, bad word, little l, liberal policies and procedures, and they're not there for the conservative right-wing MAGA values. And the only way you can have right-wing MAGA values implemented is if you get in head of all these agencies people who kiss the ring and pledge fealty to Emperor Donald Trump. That's what they're going to do. So if anybody's wondering, I wonder what Donald Trump will be like. What's Trump 2.0 going to be like? If this group gets back in, this is what's going to happen to America. A complete dismantling of America, the removal of checks and balances, right? A sweeping expansion of the executive branch, the creation of a king effectively as president. And that king would be Donald Trump. Now that should send a chill down your spine if you're a Democrat or independent or anybody in the Republican Party that's not MAGA. Because that's what's going to happen. Because now you got a pissed off Donald Trump who will believe if he ever got reelected that this is what the people want, that they want fascism and they want to go under his thumb. And he's got a group of like-minded people that think that's a great idea, a group of enablers who are going to sweep into power with him, unless the American voter has something else to say about that. I have a lot of confidence in the American voter, just like I have a lot of confidence in the jury system, that they're going to see through. Forget about the emperor having no clothes. There's no, we don't want an emperor. And they're never going to allow Donald Trump to get anywhere near the Oval Office, the White House again, because this is one of a series of right-wing, MAGA right-wing fascist policies that will be implemented by Donald Trump on day one. He'll go after first all the agencies and departments that lined up against him because of his own criminality and larceny and kleptomania that was part of his administration and after. So there goes the Department of Justice. We'll get a lackey there. We'll get Jeff Clark, right, who was one of the co-conspirators for the overthrow of America on Jan 6th. He'll become the Attorney General. Ken Cuccinelli will go back. Ken Cuccinelli will go back to his role as Director of Homeland Security, or perhaps Secretary of State. Kash Patel will be rewarded with some other bigger job, with more power. John McEntee, because he's bootlicker number one, he's going to become Chief of Staff, I would imagine, for Donald Trump. Well, even one step above. He'll be the Mark Meadows to Donald Trump 2.0. And everybody else that's ended up being hidden, this is just the staff that's reported on their website, which we've showed you. There's tons of other MAGA who are sitting in this think tank as a government in exile. We'll continue to keep an close eye, on the think tank that's been being run by Russell Voigt, the Center for Renewing America. I'll follow it on hot takes just like this one at the intersection of law and politics, only one place.